Hello and welcome to today's GSA Regional Spotlight on 5G in the Caribbean and Latin American region. In the next 30 minutes or so, our research team with Joe and Jordan will take a comprehensive look at the evolution of public and private networks throughout the region. The on-demand recording will be shared with you immediately following the event, and you can also download the presentation at any point by moving your mouse over the slides and clicking the download icon. We will be sharing also the link to the free summary report immediately after the event, and also a link to the member report as well. So if you're a GSA member or associate, you're able to download the full report with all the charts. We will have time for questions at the end, so be about 15 minutes to run through the data and then the Q&A. So if you have any questions we're going through, please do just pop them into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. First, a very quick recap on GSA for those of you who don't know us. So established to really represent the voice of the mobile ecosystem, and now numbering almost 100 members and associates. The work of GSA really includes both gathering and sharing data insights and data advocacy. On the working group side of things, we've got groups looking at spectrum, private mobile networks, RedCap, and fixed wireless access. And the Fixed Wireless Access Forum itself has 58 members, representing about 80% of the infrastructure chipset, module, and CPU value chain. After this event, we'll share more details on the upcoming public plenary of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum, where we'll be joined by representatives from Telstra and the Fixed Wireless Access ecosystem to share their experiences of deploying fixed wireless access. In parallel to those working groups, the research team publishes over 160 reports annually based on data from our 7 Gambods databases. Now, these unique databases can be accessed by every employee of every GSA member and associate organization. So if you are a member and you log in using your work email address, you'll automatically be able to get access to all of this data. GSA Research tracks over 2,500 operators, including data on well over 600 public and 5G networks. So if you're interested in any of the latest global data on RedCap, fixed wireless access, private networks, spectrum pricing, spectrum allocations, anything like that, please do explore the Gambod databases. But today, the team is really going to focus on the CALA region and provide you with a comprehensive snapshot of the headline data you need to sort of guide and inform your business and product planning in this region in particular. So, Joe, over to you.
Brilliant. Cheers, Richard. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Sort of good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world watching today. And so as Richard sort of points out, I'm a member of the GSA Research team, and we work on a number of reports across the year and also populate our online database Gambod. And this presentation will look at Latin America specifically, because it's and we're going to take sort of data and things we've worked on other reports such as the 5G market snapshot report, 2G, 3G switch off report, and private mobile networks study. And these reports draw on publicly available information, but also from our data from our special interest group, such as the private mobile networks special interest group, and that data will be in this presentation. So why are we looking at Latin America specifically? Well, the GSA is releasing new regional spotlights all the time. We did a report webinar on APAC last month, and we've also done reports on North America and Europe, and we'll be completing a report on Africa and the African region, I think, next month. So make sure to keep a sort of a keen eye out for that. But without further ado, let's sort of dive into the data and look a bit more at Latin America and look at 2G, 3G switch off in both Latin America and also globally. And as of the end of August 2025, globally, 278 operators across 83 countries have either completed, are currently in progress, or have planned a 2G or 3G switch off. With examples, for example, in July, Oman sort of completely switched off its 3G networks, showing that countries are kind of looking to turn off these legacy networks and to kind of progress towards LTE and 5G networks. And if we sort of zoom in a bit more on Latin America, as of the end of August 2025, Latin America has seen 19 operators in 14 countries that have either completed, are in progress, or have planned 2G or 3G switch-offs. And of these, 10 operators in 8 countries have already completed their switch-offs, such as Digicel in Jamaica, or a Telecom Argentina in Argentina. And we can expect to see sort of more switch-offs in the short to medium term with Entel in Chile and Telefonica Movistar in Mexico, all in the process of switching off their network. So we should see more switch-offs in the sort of the next, in the sort of next 2 to 5 years. Now, what may hold this back, admittedly, is sort of the numerous amount of sort of legacy devices, things like feature phones or older sort of devices that only work on 2G, 3G systems, maybe like POS systems, some kind of smart metering system. All these things could sort of slow down switch off activity in Latin America, but also throughout the world. But now we've kind of looked at the older technology. Now let's look at LTE. And as of the end of August 2025, the GSA has tracked 841 operators globally that have launched LTE networks, with the net launches this year, or so far this year, being at 10, which is a massive sort of drastic decrease compared to the peak, which was in about 2015. If we look at Latin America, the same picture sort of painted as the number of operators that are investing in the technologies, 167 operators in 52 countries, with 145 of them have launched the technology, showing that of all the investment that's gone into the technology, most of them have now launched it, showing a good kind of completion rate. However, sort of because of this, that means that not many operators in the region are kind of still looking to deploy the network, with only 14 operators looking to deploy the technology, and showing that showing just like sort of Latin America, just like other regions, the shift to 5G is in progress, and LTE is kind of taking a bit of a backward step. But before we get kind of too ahead of ourselves, we need to sort of think about sort of the in-between gap between LTE and 5G, and that's LTE-Advanced, which is sometimes referred to as 4.5G, and it was kind of standardized in 3GPP release 10, and it enhances the capabilities of its predecessor LTE with capabilities such as significantly higher data rates and lower latency. And when sort of we look at the picture globally, the GSA has tracked 400 operators in 167 countries that are investing in LTE-Advanced technology, and of these, 360 operators have launched LTE-Advanced technology. And sort of zooming in Latin America and the Caribbean region, the GSA has tracked 60 operators in 31 countries across the region investing in LTE-Advanced technology, which is about 15% of the total number globally, and the number of launch networks in the region is about 14% of the global total, showing that just like LTE-Advanced has also shown that operators that have invested in the technology has also launched the technology. And similarly to LTE-Advanced, we're not seeing that sort of much kind of progression for the future, more sort of launches, because only 5 operators in 4 countries are planning deployments of LTE-Advanced, such as CNT in Ecuador and Movistar in Chile, which are both kind of planning launches. But now, we've mentioned it a couple of times already, but now what about 5G and sort of the LTE's successor? If we look at the chart, as you can sort of on the right of your screen, you can see that 5G really kind of took off after the end of 2020. And as of the end of last month, the GSA has tracked 361 operators in 135 countries that launched or soft launched 5G networks globally. For Latin America, however, there's kind of been a bit of a slower uptake, with 84 operators in 31 countries investing in a 5G mobile or a 5G fixed wireless access network. And when we looked at sort of launch networks, there was only 37 operators in 10%, which is about 10% of the global figure, that have launched the technology. This has occurred in 18 countries, such as in Colombia, where CALA has launched the technology, or in Mexico, where Telefonica has launched 5G. If we look forward to the future, though, and the future of 5G in Latin America, it does look a lot more promising. Why is that? Well, the GSA data shows that 11 operators across 10 countries are currently deploying 5G, pointing to an increase in sort of the short to medium term. Alongside this, 19 operators in 13 countries are planning deployments, which over the longer term could see the majority of countries in Latin America have 5G, maybe in, let's say, 5 to 10 years' time. But now we've looked at sort of 5G, we now need to look at 5G standalone, and this is the next step in 5G technology, and which, unlike 5G non-standalone, doesn't rely on a core network that is largely the same as sort of during the LTE era. The 5G core is kind of a separate, new, updated core. And 5G standalone has a number of benefits over non-standalone, such as improved reliability, lower latency, enhanced coverage, stronger indoor signals, as well as advanced security software, which is particularly important in the age of kind of hacking and bad actors. And however, in spite of all these advanced sort of capabilities, as you can see sort of on the chart on your right again, the take-up rate has not been brilliant, and that could be because maybe the telecoms industry slightly overhyped 5G, so operators were unwilling to invest in 5G standalone, or probably the bigger factor is just the device ecosystem for 5G standalone devices not sort of developed enough yet. However, if that ecosystem develops enough, this could be beneficial to consumers, but particularly enterprises, as they'll be able to make use of some of the technologies and opportunities 5G standalone offers, such as 5G RedCap and sort of 5G network slicing. And when we look at the sort of the data and the numbers, though, since the midpoint of 2023 to the end of 2Q 2025, which was in the end of June this year, the number of operators investing in 5G standalone has seen a net rise of 58, with 173 operators in 70 countries investing in public 5G standalone networks. Looking at Latin America, the figures are not so strong, with 11 operators in 6 countries investing in the technology, with Telefónica in Brazil being one example of an operator that has launched the technology. In the short time as well, growth does appear to be slow, with only one operator, America Mobile in Peru, trialing the technology, with 5 operators in 5 countries sort of planning to deploy 5G standalone. So not 5G non-standalone, we're sort of seeing there's good potential for growth over the next few years. Standalone technology, that looks a bit more, sort of maybe slightly more pessimistic outlook, but hopeful to change as the ecosystem progresses. If we look now at private mobile networks, and as of the end of, and this data is from the GSA's latest sort of private mobile networks update, with the data coming from sort of August 2025. The advancement of private mobile networks industry is global, and as you can see on the map on your screen, that's sort of in loads of different countries. I think that's about 80 countries, and the GSA has been able to categorize 1,846 customers deploying private mobile networks, which is up from 1,603 at the end of 2024. And these deployments are right across the globe. They've been North America, Europe, Asia, and in Latin America. And it should be noted that where organizations have subsidiaries in different countries or territories deploying their own networks, each subsidiary is counted separately. But looking at the Latin America and Caribbean region, we counted 116 unique customer references, making up about 6% of the global total, with a lot of these deployments being in Brazil, Peru, and Mexico. But if we look kind of, so what does that mean? Sort of where are all these deployments? Well, if we take sort of a deeper look into the private mobile network figures within LATAM, it's mainly similar to the rest of the world, because in the sort of the global world, the top verticals is manufacturing, education, and mining. Well, for Latin America, mining is the largest vertical, with 36 unique customer references. And this is due to countries mining rare earth minerals such as sort of silver in Peru and iron ore in Brazil. The next biggest vertical is manufacturing, and the third is seaports, due to a lot of countries in the Latin America region having strong export-based economies. Interestingly, sort of despite the large agricultural industries in Latin America, particularly kind of because of the Amazon rainforest seen in Bolivia and Brazil, we would have expected to see more kind of agricultural private mobile networks, but there have only been 4 references so far. However, this is kind of a trend seen throughout the world as of the slow pace that the agriculture industry takes in updating its technology, and this probably just isn't exclusive to private mobile networks. And sort of talking about sort of new technology that's quite exciting, like private mobile networks, one that I'm particularly kind of excited about is satellite NTN services. And satellite technology is a really growing, exciting area. And this is because there's sort of been improvements in or reduction in launch costs, which has meant we've been able to get more, or the industry's been able to get more satellites into the atmosphere. There's been a converging of terrestrial and non-terrestrial standards as well, which has developed the kind of the ecosystem. There's been a greater emphasis on just satellite technologies, with operators such as T-Mobile in the US and Apple and Samsung sort of offering products, which is very which is really great for kind of the industry, sort of raising great awareness, and people are sort of able to sort of this has the potential to sort of benefit millions of people around the world, connect people in the most rural areas, reducing kind of the digital divide. So in our research, we identified 170 publicly announced partnerships in 80 different countries, and each partnership has a different use case, such as direct to cell, satellite broadband, or satellite IoT, or satellite backhaul. And in Latin America, there have been 28 publicly announced partnerships in 12 different countries. Examples include Telefonica in Mexico working on satellite broadband with Starlink, and Link partnering with Claro in Brazil working on satellite direct to cell. And if you want more details on our publicly announced satellite partnerships and our satellite NTN report, I think that report is getting published either today or tomorrow. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. And another interesting area about that's kind of related to the satellite NTN in Latin America is satellite IoT. And there's one partnership in Brazil that's developing a satellite IoT solution, because the Amazon rainforest could sort of benefit from this through wildfire detection or from tracking animals in farming. However, as we sort of discussed a moment ago, the agricultural industry is kind of slow to maybe adapt to these new technologies. However, if they are able to do so, then that great benefits to the agricultural industry, improving things like sustainability and reducing wildfires and improving the health of animals as the global population gets increases. But overall, kind of in the future, we do expect the number of satellite partnerships, not just in Latin America, but around the world, to increase as satellite vendors develop their constellations. But as we now move to completely separate subjects, we look at spectrum activity. And since the beginning of 2023, it can be said that Latin America has seen varied results in satellite activity, successfully concluding at least 16 auctions ranging from 700 megahertz to 3.5 gigahertz in countries such as Argentina and Costa Rica. The price of these auctions have varied greatly, with Argentina's auction raising over $875 million, while in contrast, the 700 megahertz auction in Costa Rica only raised about $32 million. Looking forward, there are more auctions planned. So in Bolivia, there's going to be a mid-band auction, and in Brazil, there's going to be a 700 megahertz auction. But if we now move on to our final slide before I invite Jordan to join me and we can answer your questions on Latin America or any of the technologies discussed, we talk a bit about fixed wireless access. And fixed wireless access has seen growth around the world, particularly in the last few years. And looking at Latin America, 63% of the countries in the region offer fixed wireless access service. Yet there is a difference between these types of services. There's 47 of them that have launched use LTE, with the majority of the packages based on volume, i.e. the amount of data consumed compared to speed-based tariffs. For 5G services, there are 28 operators investing in the next generation of 5G fixed wireless access services, with 47% of them launching 5G fixed wireless access services. So as 5G in the region grows, we should see more 5G fixed wireless access networks. Now, though 5G standalone is growing slowly, and I kind of mentioned that before, it does also create an opportunity in relation to fixed wireless access, as 5G RedCap offers a comparable device cost to 4G, but it also enables operators to put data traffic on new, comparatively lightly loaded 5G-only spectrum bands, which can take load off existing 4G networks, which benefits operators running a fixed wireless access service. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for listening. I'll now invite your questions as well as Jordan to join me, and we can go through some of them over the next 5-10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Joe. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about Latin America. It's a very dynamic region that's constantly changing and going through a lot of developments at the moment in this space. So yeah, as you've been going through that, I've been tracking a few of the questions coming through, and we have had quite a few. If I can just answer the first one. So we've had a question on LTE-Advanced. Obviously, you've mentioned in your slides there, Joe, that it's pretty well developed globally, but also in Latin America as well. So the question is, if LTE-Advanced is doing well in Latin America, why would operators invest in 5G? And ultimately, I think that's looking at what is the incentive for operators really to move past LTE-Advanced onto 5G. So for me, LTE-Advanced is of course performing very, very well, but 5G in comparison offers capabilities that go beyond what 4G can deliver. That, in the sense of it provides much higher speeds, lower latency, greater capacity as examples, and these are essential for new use cases that we're seeing develop. So things like RedCap that Joe's just mentioned, private networks, which we've also mentioned, and industrial automation, which in countries such as Brazil, with huge mining industries, it's going to be very, very important for efficiency moving forward and to ensure its competitive advantage really in the region and globally. So for me, investing in 5G helps operators future-proof their networks, attract enterprise customers, and ultimately, like I've just mentioned, stay competitive as demand for advanced mobile technologies continues to grow and services continue to grow. So a really interesting question. Okay, so we've got a few more. We've got quite a few to get through. So
yeah, I've just seen one here. Just a quick clarification on what does investing in 5G standalone mean. So that basically means an operator's announced that they're sort of planning to invest in the network. So that could mean that they're sort of doing a trial. They've just announced that they're going to launch a standalone network, or they have launched a standalone network. So it encompasses varying sort of stages and levels of the process of investing in a 5G standalone network. It can be a pilot network, it could be a launch network. It really does vary, but the main distinguishing point is between investing it, but they could be investing in a standalone network for a long time, as operators do like to put out press releases, but then actually launching the technology, that's the kind of the crucial bit really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to further clarify, GSA tracks the entire process of investment in a network. Like Joe's just mentioned, we track it from the announcement of a planned deployment all the way through to its final commercial launch as well. So, and we do make that clear within our reports, the different figures around those different stages as well. Okay, so there's another question around private 5G. So the question is, what is the strategy for private 5G in Latin America as access to spectrum is a challenge? So yeah, really interesting question. As we've seen, private mobile networks are really, increasing globally at a pretty quick rate. So in Latin America, private 5G is mostly focused on the industries that Joe's already mentioned, like mining, seaports, logistics, and manufacturing. Of course, these are huge industries within the region. And these are where tailored networks can really improve efficiency and productivity. And operators often use shared or light lease licensed spectrum to overcome regulatory limitations. And so in some cases, they even partner directly with enterprises to deploy networks as well. So the strategy really is to start with high value verticals where return on investment is clear, even if broad spectrum access does remain limited. So yeah, it's really focusing on those main industries within the region that we're seeing currently. Sorry, just the slide keeps popping off the screen, but yeah, okay. So there's quite a few more questions. I don't know if you've seen any that you're interested in.
Yeah, I've got one here on how do you think the region's low ARPU impacts the development of 5G and fixed wireless access? Well, I mean, I think we kind of alluded to it a bit already, but yeah, that's the trouble with all levels of investment really. That the low ARPUs just means operators find it tougher to invest in technology, and the network costs maybe sort of some of the operating costs in the region may be lower compared to countries, maybe countries in Europe, for example. It still takes time to sort of get that return on investment back. And I mean, I've also been looking at other countries such in other regions, particularly such as India. And in India, there's been a real kind of pushback against going to newer technologies because people like spending sort of cheaper amounts on 2G and 3G tariffs. So I think that's kind of a problem that we're seeing throughout the world, and it's just be about raising incomes or educating consumers and sort of showing them how they can utilize the 5G and fixed wireless access technology.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, apologies, everybody, if you're seeing the screen flick back and forth. We're not too sure why that's happening at the moment, but apologies if that's a little bit distracting.
I think we were during a presentation, actually. I didn't expect to see my mug shot.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got a few more questions coming through thick and fast. So this question's on fixed wireless access. So the question is, fixed wireless access is often positioned as a cost-effective way to connect underserved areas. And do you see this becoming a major driver of network evolution in Latin America? So for me, definitely, Latin America has vast rural and therefore underserved regions, especially in these huge countries such as Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru. And these are regions where fiber is just not economically viable. So fixed wireless access provides, a faster, more cost-efficient alternative for deployment and for broadband access. And several operators are already, as Joe's mentioned, are already trialing or even launching fixed wireless access services using both LTE and 5G. So it won't replace fiber, especially in urban areas, but it will be a crucial tool for bridging that digital divide that we hear so much about within Latin America. So it's really, really high potential for these underserved regions outside of urban areas.
Yeah, and just to add to that point, I think you're completely right. It's just not feasible to deploy fiber, and that's also possibly why satellite broadband could also do particularly well in those regions that maybe even 5G networks can't reach. Then satellite broadband can be that kind of next complementary, sort of the extension of the system. So you have fiber, you have fixed wireless access, and you have satellite broadband, and that should hopefully get us to a stage where everyone anywhere should be connected. Just depends on how long that takes. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting as well, especially in Latin America, to see, the prevalence of fixed wireless access and satellite as we move forward. Which one's really going to see that quicker emergence, so to speak? That's going to be really interesting to continue to track moving forward. Okay, so we've got a few more. Actually, this question is probably actually really good for that as a follow-on to that. So one's maybe for you, Joe, if that's okay. So how are operators addressing those connectivity gaps? We've just mentioned in rural and underserved areas, and in particular, you may have already answered this, but is fixed wireless access or satellite a big focus? It's actually a perfect.
I mean, I think the main thing is in cellular areas you can use sort of fixed wireless access, and in really rural areas you can use satellite. But then it also, as we've talked about already in this Q&A, it does come down to cost, and at this stage satellite broadband is still more expensive than fixed wireless access. Will that change? Well, at the moment you've got Starlink and then a number of other players that are more established players. Now, could that change with new entrants into the market? You've got Amazon Kuiper that's just launched over 100 new satellites. Maybe they could become a factor. You've also got a lot of these sort of Chinese constellations that potentially could also, particularly in Latin America, be very appealing to people, and that could offer maybe a sort of a lower cost alternative. But I think it will be a really interesting sort of dynamic. I think overall it will all go back to cost and price at the end, and just see what kind of capacity they can offer for the cheapest price.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So there's a question that's come through from Carlos. Is there a way to have the list of the fixed wireless access operators offering 5G? There is. We recently released our fixed wireless access report, I believe in July. And within that report, we offer to members a list of all fixed wireless access services that we track. So you can see that within the Latin American region or other regions, however that interests you. So yeah, Carlos, that's really for you, that report, if you want to see that list. So we've probably got time for maybe one more question, and we will be answering any unanswered questions offline. So please do get your questions in. We'd love to answer them. Okay, maybe this last question for you then, Joe. So the question's around, given the unique geography and demographics of Latin America, of course, it's a very diverse region in both of those aspects. What do you see as the biggest investment priorities for operators, over maybe the short to medium term? Is that, 5G expansion, fiber backhaul, or improving existing 4G coverage? How do you see that developing for the region?
Well, I mean, it's probably a combination of all three, if I'm honest. But I think if we just look at the data we've studied today, you see LTE's sort of LTE 4G. There's been a good amount of investment there. A good number of operators have launched the technology. I mean, that data doesn't go into maybe coverage, but a good number of sort of invested in that technology. Where 5G, it's developing at a decent rate, but it could improve. So I think 5G is where we're going to see it. And I think just then on top of that, adding on things like 5G standalone, which can then give greater sort of network capabilities that can offer, particularly regions like Latin America, new solutions to things like 5G RedCap could particularly help in some of these industries we've talked about, like mining, like manufacturing with the IoT devices. So I think 5G is probably the thing they're going to focus on the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? You know, operators need the device ecosystem to justify investment in new networks, but then obviously, you know, consumers and mobile manufacturers or device manufacturers need the networks in place to be able to justify their manufacturing of devices and buying of devices in the first place. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. But yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think 5G is definitely an area that Latin America will see increased growth over the next few years, but it is also a region that still relies heavily on, you know, 3G, 4G devices, and even in some cases 2G devices as well. But yeah, I do see that moving forward as well. So yeah, I think that's probably all the time we've got at the moment for the questions. I see there's a few more coming through and we will answer them. So for example, Clifton, I've just seen your question come through. We will answer that offline for you. Hernan, Ramiro, we will answer moving forward. So yeah, I'll hand back to Richard to close out the session.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you to all you for joining us today and joining our research team for this look at the Latin American market. After the event, you will receive a link to the full webinar recording and to the presentation. And again, we'll share a link to the free summary report, which is available to download, and also to the detailed member-only report as well. So if you are a member or a GSA associate, you can download the member-only report, which has a lot more data with the charts and granularity within it. We've got a full calendar of events running up throughout the year. Information is always published on our website. Next event is on the 30th of September, and that's going to be the public plenary of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum. A registration link will be included in the post-event email that will soon be landing in your inbox. Access to all the detailed data behind GSA reports and webinars, as mentioned, is available to all employees of GSA members and associate organizations via the GSA website. If you'd like more information about how your organization can get involved in GSA, again, we'll share a link with you, but if you go to that URL on the page, you see members.gsacom.com, that will give you a clear indication of all the different benefits of GSA membership and the costs involved. For the latest updates on GSA research activities and events, again, please do follow GSA on our social channels. If you register via the website, you can subscribe to our weekly research digest email. So reports are delivered straight into your inbox. And you can also subscribe to the GSA monthly newsletter, which again provides a one-stop shop summarizing all the research from the previous month. So finally, on behalf of the GSA team, I'll just say thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next GSA event. Many thanks.